A better evening and pleasant evening. Trust your week went well and trust that you are dwelling in goodness and you are mindfully engaging life for a life of satisfaction, a life of fullness, a life of abundance, a life where you have mental clarity rather than mental storm, a life where you have such a creative mind to be able to navigate yourself to the details and the complexity of life. Welcome again to this mental clinic. This is where we strip you from all the storms in your mind and all the narratives and all the ugly stories and the pictures that had been painted into your mind, which are all illusions because they are not happening now. It's just a faculty of your memory that you are engaging to retrieve them and recycle them. So what I intend to do is to bring you the peace of the mind where you find satisfaction doing life and not life doing you. One of the things that has really helped me was ask myself this question: is life doing me or am I doing life? What it means is that when external events control you, it's like they are drum rolling you. You do not have your inner leader that guarantees your safety. And today we're going to be handling about mind safety, how to have self-safety and all that, so that you can lower your expectation about external events. And specifically, I'm going to be dedicating to this to people who life have dealt so badly, especially if the opposite sex has really taken advantage of you and now you have lost trust of yourself and trust about people, and so you are now living a substandard life, disconnected from life and completely disillusioned, and now you are on like an autopilot where you are very reactive, which is really no life. But as we bring this mental clinic to you, we want to ensure that you have a calming heart, that you know that you can live a life of unoffended, where there's no offense. Is it possible? Yes. It's possible that you cannot be devalued. And that's why it's important to understand that when life is doing you, you're not growing. Self-growth is something that we don't pay attention. It's not about career growth. Yes, that's part of it. But what about your self-growth, where you are internally leading yourself in life, not external conditioning or external influence, external growth? How can you not live in autopilot? So when life hits you and you say you are frustrated, that single means that life is drumming for you. But can you look at a situation and you say, I am capable to manage this, to deal with this life? I have the mental capacity, I have the mental resilience, I have the mental toughness, I have the mental knowledge to be able to deal with every form of pressure and demand and not cave into those demands, those pressures. And so that's why it's important that we're going to break it down in the simplest form, where you have to simplify your life, become so steady, and have that sense of self. But before I go in all this, I want to think about 5 things that can lead you to start owning your life before we find a solution to get into where is your self-safety? Where is your self-safety? I work in an industry where safety is our primary concern. We put all the garments. We have our coverall, we have our head cover, we have our steel toe, we have our stripe, something like a belt that keeps us. Of course, that reminds me about the scripture of say, do you have your helmet of salvation? Have you got your breastplate of faith? Have you got your shield of faith? And all that come together. You see that's how life is. So we want to be able to bring it into your personal safety, especially your mind safety. Because if you don't have a mind safety, then you're open to attack. And I'm going to start this by reading a scripture that have really helped me deal with these issues, so that you could also help you as you look at it. Now in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28, Proverbs chapter 25, verse 8, they say, if you cannot control your anger, you are as helpless as a city without walls, open to attack. Meaning that every time you're angry, you're open to attack. It weakens you. In fact, anger indicates that you have lost control, that something is drumming your life, not your life drumming itself. Do you understand? I mean, it's good for us to bring spiritual principles that will help you, so that it's not looking, it doesn't seem like we are too philosophical around it. But we like to connect our life to principles, to divine truth, so that when you have an anchoring truth, you are able to establish working truth. And that's what will bring you into that place of centeredness, of balance, of mental clarity, of mental resilience, that will also be able to put a boundary over your mind, because your mind is one of the precious assets you have. Because the quality of your mind will determine the quality of your life. The strength of your mind, your inner strength, your inner wisdom, your inner knowing, your inner conviction, your inner confidences, your inner creation. And these are the things that you need. You know, when the Bible says, do not lose your confidence, for out of it is a great recompense. Every time you're angry, you're weak. In fact, life is doing you. Irrespective of everything. People will tell me, it's my life. Allow me to experience anger. Anger is not something that you want to internalize. Anger really is an awakener that there's something you're missing within. And it's showing that every time you respond to a situation with anger, you have been drafted to the place of helplessness, to the place of weakness, in fact, to the place of purposelessness. Because anger should have a purpose. So he said, if you cannot control your anger, you are as helpless as a city without walls, open to attack. Maybe we should try reading it from another context. He who has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. A city that is broken down without walls. I'd like to look at 1632. Again, 1632. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Better than the mighty. I like references. I like anchoring my mental construct and mental narrative and stories from scriptural background. Now look at this. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty. He who rules his own spirit than he who takes a city. Really, really powerful thing. Now this is what it says. Do you want to be a mighty warrior? It is better to be known as one who is patient and slow to anger. Do you want to conquer a city? Rule your own temper before you attempt to rule a city. So you see, anger means that there's something inherently wrong within your own system. It means that you're already seated with some negativity that unconsciously had been engineered and altered by an experience that you did not reflect properly, and now you installed it in your memory bank, negating, the Bible said, the memory of the just is blessed. Every time you go to a memory bank and retrieve an event that you have not put a light on it and learn from it and let it go and surrender to the flow of higher self, it means that there's a poison that you are releasing. And that's why it's the out of the heart. If you don't have anger, you have calmness. If you don't have anger, you have peace. And how I started coming to this peace together is a follow peace with men and holiness. What it means that don't judge a king from what you think he should be. Judge it from your standard. And he said, will that not expose me to be weak, where people take? He uses the foolish things of this age to conform to the wise. I always ask this question. Please ask this question to yourself. Do I want to be right or do I want to be healthy? You know that once you're angry, you're not healthy. But when you can overlook offense, you're in a state of higher vibration. Because what anger, frustration, discouragement, distress, distortion, and all those, they lower your value. We have talked about the debased mind, and we talked about value-based mind. So now, these lower energies that drive you down, what does that mean? When I count it all joy when somebody insults me, I have refused to go down lane with that person. What if somebody is taking advantage of me? He's lower to take, so he's harvesting from a privileged point. Now, because what he or she wants to do is to drag me to the lane, and which is really what getting angry, frustrated, stress, and all that, that's what it does. Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's a home matter, whether it's relationship with finance as well too. And that's why it's foolishness to be angry when you do not have resources. Because you're not co-creating with life force. And life force are in a flow state where periodically they flow through a system. But let me break it down. Why am I interested in your mind? There are 4 things we want to look at, or 5. Then that will drive us to mind safety, which is self-safety. Because once you have self-safety, it means that you have already put safety installation of guide that guides your mind and guides your life. Your mind is either creating or consuming. Your mind is either controlling or in connection. What does that mean? It's either you're creating your responses or you're being consumed by reaction. If you are ill, do you have the mental structure to look at sickness as a temporary thing? Or does it create fear or disillusionment where you start thinking, am I going to die? What happened at that moment? You've been hijacked by emotion. So at that hijacked means you're being consumed. Have you lent somebody money and they didn't repay you back and you become upset, angry? Yes, you are justified over there. But if you not notice that it consumes you, it gives you sleepless night. It takes away your peace. It takes away your joy, that fluidity, that delight, that awesomeness, that light body, that excellent spirit. You just know that you are in a lower part. And that's the intention, to distract you, to distort you, to create a dark mind where you now start functioning from a dark mind. You're angry, depression comes in, and dissatisfaction comes in over there. And that's what it is. So that's when you're consumed. But when is creation? What is the mind creation? Mind creation is you have the mental resilience and mental strength and mental conviction to rewrite a story. So let's say from the time somebody has taken advantage of you, man has disappointed and broken your heart. Now you are so solidified in your state of defense that it's poisoning you. You have lost your sense of self-tenderness, compassion, that bliss. that place of excitement, that place of fun, that place where you are joyful. You were once an excited person, but now you're freed because now you're oversensitive because of all the negativity that you have compounded in your life. It didn't start like way. You were not like this. So now what you've been done, what has happened to you, that you have been consumed and been devalued. Now they have given you a debased mind. So you're not functioning not from the optimal place of your valued mind, but from a distracted mind where you're no longer balanced, not that into that equilibrium, where there's no inner peace. And that's what really is happening to you. So you also have what we call mind connection or mind control. Now, do you know why you get angry? That's the mind control. Mind control is when external things trigger you, or when external things begin to dictate how you feel, begin to dictate your emotion, begin to dictate your state of being. That's when the mind controls you. So you said, okay, I'm frustrated. Frustration is just that kind of thing. Oh, I'm discouraged. There's no flow of life. Your sweetness is going. Your sound mind is completely eroded by, unsound mind. And now your health is impacted. Your productivity is going down. Your connection to relationship is done with suspicion. It's no longer that authentic place where you are creating out of purpose, out of your value, mindfully, making sure that you are in your place. Now you're freed. So that's not a life to live. Absolutely, that's not a life to live. So, but when you call mind connection is where things happened. Because of your intensity of your self-awareness, you pause, you reflect, and engage what you call your inner leader, which is your higher guidance, which could also be your value system. Let me explain. Now I'm doing something, I get into a space, and the space does not align to my aspiration, and I know that I have control when I connect with myself. I have control to my thoughts, I have control to my feelings, I have control to my perception, I have control to my belief system, and I have control to my emotion. That's what I have. So now I will pause on that thing. I'll look at which of my values will help me to navigate. Maybe, for instance, one is respect. How do I respect myself enough not to allow my emotion to be bankrolled by external person, no matter what they've done? That's okay, respect. So I respect myself, I also respect them, because we are not in the same level of evolution or knowledge base. So people will act out of the base knowledge they have. So I will just take calm. I might just go forward and say, how does this better me? How do I even better the other person? Or how do I better the situation? Let me explain to you. You get into a place. The doctor gives you a report. Oh, XYZ has happened. Check out how you feel at that moment. You're likely going to react out of fear, out of that fact. Your feelings have been consumed, bankrolled now, of the rolling of the drum of your heart is being bankrolled by what the doctor have said. Now, it dips your faith at that moment. What happened is that you lack self-awareness at that moment. You lack deeper reflection. You lack that place of where you pause, like be still, and said, how do I deal with this? Now, the problem about mind connection and mind control. Now, when you are in mind control, you're ruled by habits, meaning that you're ruled by the past experiences. And really what hurts you is because you're not open to newness. So you're judging an action from the past, not from the moment. And now the hurt is because you want to control that situation from what you think it should be and not what it is. What is now mind connection? Mind connection is where you stand still to have a deeper understanding, the root cause of what it is, and the ability for you to internally allow your inner leader, inner guide, your value system, operate from your true essence. That's what authentic living means, that I'm not triggered by those expectations. So I can tell the doctor, oh, really, thank you so much for the effort. Can you give me time to think about this? Not to think about it from what he said, but to relate it from your mind connection that, hey, I'm healed. He sent for his word, and his word healed us. By his stripes, I am healed. He said, those that put a trust in him will never be ashamed. You haven't seen how you have put a space between the stimulus and the response. And that place of pause give you either creation or consumption. And that's the difference. And that's why he said, with patience, you possess your possession. That means impatient automatically means that you are reacting and you're losing. And every time you're losing, you're not connected to your true self, to your creative mind. You are connected to your consuming mind. And let me tell you, the reason why you're hurting, what is hurting you is your consuming mind. But your creative mind doesn't hurt because it finds solution at any point in time, because it's working with a working truth that anchors truth. Is it not theory you're talking about, Patrick? What do you do when you meet a traffic? You see that your consuming mind begin to accelerate into hurriness. That hurry state, that's when you crack your car more. You see, because you're open to attack. Don't forget to say, if you don't have rule over your spirit, you are like a city that have no walls. So that weakens you. That's where you are subject to stress. That's where your helpless comes. That's where self-doubt start coming. And that's where you're prone to making mistakes. Think about it. All the mistakes that you have made, it was when you're in a state of confusion. And a confused state means that your mind is consuming rather than creating. Apply these two consistently when you start in a day. First of all, don't rush out of your house. Start with still. That's what they call the design life. That's what they call have you commanded the morning. It means that you can sit down in the morning. Don't take your phone. Take a pause state. And now calibrate yourself and say, I have a working truth. Like for instance, say, I will not be in a hurry today. Hurry accelerates foolishness. Still gives me power of choice, which is what I call conscious choice. Now, when you in the morning start your day in such a gratitude form, what is happening? You make an intention. People don't start the day with intention. When you start an intention, you notice that you are consciously have commanded the day the way it should flow, so without force. When you meet contrary thing, you will not allow it to consume you. Your creation is coming from your place of intention. That's what they call intentionality. Intentionality means that I am aligning to my working truth that has an anchor. So, let's say my working truth means I'm a delight, or I'm a sparkling, I have a sparkling self. This is what it does. If I meet the doctor and he gives me a report, I'm not likely going to respond. That's like my mind has no control, has no guidance, has no boundaries, has no resilience. Now, once your mind do not have mental resilience and mental clarity, it now goes out of balance. That's out of sync. There's no standardization, there's no control, there's no rules around the mind. So, poor mental health is as a result of no boundaries, no rules, no standard, no value of the mind. And that's why there's no alignment. You are not responding from your working truth that is anchored into principles. You see how mind control or mind creation is what the tool you need to really navigate all the complexity of life. And the more I try this, it makes you like you live a fuller life. You enjoy life from your own. Does that mean that everything is going to work? It can work perfectly the way you want it to be. People will still disappoint. The rain will still fall. The sun will still shine. Darkness will still come. People will still defraud. People that has no value will act out of their valueless life. People who has no control of their mind can speak words that are out of their basement. So, a man born of a woman is few days, but full of trouble. In the world you have tribulation, but be of a good cheer. I've overcome the world. Whatever is born of God, overcome the world. So if you're not overcoming circumstances, if you're not overcoming stress, if you're not overcoming adversity, if you're not overcoming trouble, they will overcome you. And that's what has consumed you. So what does it mean? So now, to help you in your journey, let's look about 5 things. Number 1 is sense of self. Self-actualization, self-knowledge, knowing who you are, will affect and impact on your mental state. Clinically, this is how we deal with this, so that you understand how to build the rigidity of your mind. How your mind become that rigid, not in that flexible connection where you are ruled by everything, but rigidity to your standard and values, where they begin to dictate how you interpret, how you relate, how you define circumstance. So you are shifting from a place of reactivity, from a place of consumption to the place of creativity, and whether you are responding. So the first thing is, what is your sense of self? I always talk about sense of self. I need to remind myself my sense of self, like I'm divine, I'm sacred, I'm radiant, I am blessed, I'm unoffended, I am beautiful. The more I optimize my self-knowledge, it will now be able to give me that self-awareness that, yes, I understand my tendencies, I understand what could trigger me. And once I know those things that can trigger me, it gives me the solid faith that I can deal with whatever comes my way, calmly, nicely, unperturbed, unoffended. Patrick, but I've been abused by the opposite sex. They have messed me up. They didn't mess you up. In fact, the language you're using is apparently what is creating that story or reinforcing that story, because those stories no longer exist in reality, because they are temporary. You're only connecting to it because you have been emotionally hijacked, and so you're identifying with it. You are clinging on it. You don't want to let go. You want to release it. You want to release it and surrender. So that's why those attachments is what is eroding your sense of self. You have not optimized your sense of self, upgrade it and say, I'm bigger than this, I'm better than this. But of course, sister, brother, you are better than that experience. You're better than that pain. You're better than the past. In fact, your sense of self is bigger than your habit. Is bigger than your pain. Is bigger than your history. Is bigger than that abuse. You are bigger. It was temporary. You cannot debase yourself to such extent that your life reference is tied down to an ugly past. You're bigger than the ugly past. Have you not heard what the Holy Spirit said? That he gave beauty to ashes and oil of gladness against heaviness of heart. Meaning that you have the capacity, because you are God-like, to be able to see that ugly position and you see beauty around it. That's how your mental structure begin to redefine your sense of self. Your sense of self cannot be driven by past, not even future. It is the now factor. This is where you are. You have the capacity to recreate yourself and reinvent yourself and utilize those experiences as a mechanism to retrain your mental resilience and install your mental capacity to deal with this. So the first thing is sense of self. Remind yourself every day who you are. I love that. I mean, I wake up and say, hey, I'm a Jesus boy. I walk in divine wisdom. I'm on top only. I fear God. I have a good heart. I'm kind-hearted. I'm diligent and hardworking. I have an excellent spirit. I manifest greatness. I am blessed of the Lord. I'm blessed of the Lord. I'm blessed of the Lord. I'm a thinker. I'm a strategist. I build good culture and I have a great future. Now, the more I reinforce this self-awareness, it's more typical, like Jesus will tell you, I'm the light of the world. That's what sense of self does. You need to wake up with a sense of self. And this is what they call, that is the foundation of true living. That is where you live a holistic mental wholeness, spiritual wholeness, where you become no longer consumed and hijacked by emotion. You cannot be subject to that emotion. You have emotional objectivity. When anger arises, you say, anger, what are you teaching me? When frustration comes in, hey, what responsibility are you provoking? Or when you said, oh, I'm disappointed, disappointment becomes a messenger, because now your sense of self will be interacting on a higher level where they don't consume you from your mind consumption, but your creative mind begin to offer solution-based. Because you are responsible, you have the power to trade with serpents and scorpions and all the powers of the enemies. Because they have prepared a table before you in the presence of the enemy, because you have a presence that outweigh those circumstances. But Patrick, this guy dealt with me. Another guy dealt with me. You are the one creating the continuation because you have not blessed it. If I'm a blessing, I'll be a blessing to others. I bless my situation. And that's why they don't overwhelm me. You see, that's what they call about creative mind. I don't know where you are. What is your sense of self? Of course, it gives you the sense of security. Where is it that you can run in and be safe? Where is that cocoon? What is that cocoon system that gives you sense of place? Some people it's prayer. Some people they need to be alone to reflect. Some people, they could drink water. Some people, you see, they take a walk. Some people, they go into affirmation. Some people, they can do a retreat. Because those retreats are giving you a pause. That's the pause state, where you are working from, you disconnect from that which is happening and be able to be mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically out present. You are now syncing them, and that's what gives you that audacity and that propensity to be able to say, okay, I can deal with this, because of your sense of self. So that's where there's a connection to your real self, your authentic self. They now, in that quiet, silent, still moment, you begin to see that a new sensation begin to rise, sensation of gratitude. And once that momentum is activated within you, you will see that that upper self, that higher self will begin to be, established. And it's only when you now have that higher self that you can now have mental clarity, mental balance, that state of scenerity in your mind. That's where you can now think wholly and not disjointed. That's where you can think creatively. That's where you can think mindfully. That's where you can think purposefully. And then once you have gained that momentum, you now have that you are on a higher state, and that's where you can impact whatever story. That's why you can rewrite it. So sense of security is something that if you don't establish well, then your mind is porous. And that's why I say like a city without a wall. It means that you've not been able to put boundaries, that will help you navigate all that. Yeah. The next one is the sense of purpose. And I like sense of purpose because sense of purpose is where everything has a purpose. Don't assume that somebody that took advantage of you or you trusted them, they walk away. You quarter them in your house, they steal from you, they maligned you. Now, sense of purpose will be, what is the purpose? And you see, don't go into any relationship. Don't go into any event. Don't go into any space. Don't go into any job without a sense of purpose. Why are you going there? Some say, have your why. But I like to talk about sense of purpose. Because sense of purpose is what should drive your actions. That's what should drive your behavior. That's what you should drive your mannerism. That's what you should drive your character. That's what should drive your feelings. That's what should drive your perspective. That's what should drive your focus. You see, that's the moment of this sense of purpose is established. So if somebody acts out of character, I'm not going to focus on his or her own sense of purpose. I'm going to focus on my own sense of purpose, because don't forget, whatever a man plants, that's what he's going to reap. What you sow, that's what you're going to harvest. What you speak is what comes back to you. So it means that my sense of purpose is like my seed of life. And I should focus on that. I mean, I've been there where people literally want to, because you give them access, now they think your money back. And if you don't respond to them, to their need, they call you names. And once they call you names, don't forget the name is as a result of their sense of intention and sense of purpose. They had a purpose to meet with you. Now, you also have a purpose why you're saying no. Don't allow anger to now convert you from where you are, now move to their own sense of purpose, which is already formed in terms of degradation. If somebody rape you, that person have a debased mind. Now you have something beautiful that person has admired. What happens is that the moment you go switch through, you become unadmirable because you're bitter, you're frustrated, you are in pain, and those are something that devalue you. They have no single purpose. Hey, you need to understand, if your mind do not work from the sense of purpose, you're like a city without a wall. And that's why you can be attacked, defenseless. You have no protective arm. There's no safety around your mind. And it's important. So, sense of self, sense of security, and sense of purpose. I like to talk about the other one, the sense of intention. So what's the difference between intention? Intention means this is, let's say I have an intention to to keep my promise. My sense of purpose is driven by my intention. My sense of purpose is driven by the sense of intention. So, if my intention is to live in fuller, satisfied life, fulfilling life, and there's a contradiction to that by people who also have a sense of intention. If I leave my intention, I've been consumed, I've activated my mind consumption, where they are externally drumming for me, not my inner leader that is fashioning how I should respond. So, if I'm able to mindfully engage in my sense of intention in relationship, even at work, like I give instance, okay, what if I'm going to work, I have an appointment now, and I'm going to start a job. Most people don't sit down to develop that sense of intention. So when people say I'm intentional about what they do, go and check. There's no anchoring. There's nothing to anchor that intention. So I go to work to bring value. I go to work to ensure that I'm useful to my organization. I get into the family and I'll tell myself I'm a gift to this family, right? If somebody comes down to me with an ambiguous request, for instance, you will realize that most of the time we shift from our intention to that person's intention and we get upset. I used to be like that until one day, I wake up early in the morning and by early hours I started having requests. It was so daunting. I mean, it was absolutely unbearable. This one is asking for this one is asking for this. And there are people who you have not even spoken for with maybe for years or some sort of thing. So this day, I was going to be depressed. Why am I working for them? Until my higher self, in that pause moment, say, hey, pause. They're not asking you. They're asking the infinite self. Wow. It's a tone. You're looking at the finite self, which is the limited self. You're not looking at the unlimited self. Have you not seen a city set on a hill cannot be hidden? You ask for promotion. So yet people are seeing the promotion. Don't you see that is a sense of elevation? What does that mean? You see, my intention at that moment saying, when people ask me, is a set of blessing to me. Because you see, if you put it in the reversal, what if you are in that position where you're the one asking? What if you're the one asking? You have an intention. Giving have an intention. So where I'm going is, if you have a sense of intention, it will guide your mind. It will secure your mind. Your focus will be guided. Your perspective will be guided. I mean, it also enriches your feelings. But you see, once we are not in tune with our sense of self, with a sense of security, with a sense of purpose, and a sense of intentionality, we can't live an intentional life. Then, of course, the last one is the sense of gratitude. This is what gratitude does. Gratitude doesn't reject anything. Rejection is also a sign of weakness. Yes, what is happening may not necessarily be in alignment to your preference or desirable outcome. But the first thing what a gratitude does is it's a sense of gratitude. Oh, thank you. Thank you because somebody abused me. Are you crazy, Patrick? If you don't say thank you because they abused me, you are rejecting it. Rejection is a mind control, not a mind creativity. This is what they call backward thinking. I bring reversal thinking. And that's where life is. That's where stability comes in. That's where you have fullness of life. But once you are not thinking backward thinking like what I do, then you realize that you are in conflict. And once there's a conflict, there's a control. So sense of gratitude means is activating a high sense of mental attitude. And that mental attitude is a place where you are on a higher pedestal and be able to deal, because everything that seems to devalue you is under. That's why they are devaluation. You need to be able to put your sense, when the scripture said, if you then reason with Christ, set your affection above. You cannot have a lower affection and deal with complex of life. You cannot be in the same level and make impact in your life. You have to constantly move forward. That's what the evolutionary self, that's what the mature self, that's why self-growth is important, because what it means that you are outwitting, you have what it means to outwit your circumstance. So you see, when you are in a state of hurt, you don't have a sense of gratitude, because what it does, you are still rejecting, you're not accepting. And acceptance means that you have an abundant spirit within you. That's why it's a greater is he that is in us than he that's in the world. Because we don't even think about that. Because the external thing that we focus on that drowned us. But when you look inside of you, you know you're richer, you are bigger, you have grace, you have goodness, you have the tenacity of mind, you have the emotional resilience, you have the emotional intelligence and subjectivity. You have the essence. You have what they call the meaning factor, how you rename something. You even have to know how to relabel it. Because you see, gratitude shows that you have accepted it. And in gratitude, you rebel it. You rename it. You reframe it. Because it's an abundance. And that's where appreciation comes in. You need an appreciative spirit in order to deal with every form of contradiction. Can I say that again? You need an appreciative spirit. That's why sense of gratitude is so powerful. If something happens to you, do you think it was senseless when it says, in all circumstances, count it all joy? What it means that you are embodying, you are animating, you are installing a sense of appreciation. That's appreciative spirit. And it's only in appreciative spirit that you are able to deal with any contrary thing. Anytime you are angry, you have a depreciative spirit. And what it does, it connects to your consuming mind. But appreciative spirit means that there's a connection to your creative mind. And creativity means that you have the capacity to forge an alliance with your higher self to deal with whatever it is. And that's where your mental clarity and mental soundness will come. So when the scripture said it has not given the spirit of sound mind and the spirit of fear, but the spirit of a sound mind. You see what I'm talking about? So really the true way your mind will find rest, complete fullness and satisfaction is in what they call appreciative spirit. It's like an asset. If an asset, if your car is a liability, you know what happened? It's when you wake up, you're frowning, your fear, is it going to park you on the road? You're not stable. You're not even sure what is going to happen. Because now you have obtained a depreciative spirit. And the depreciative spirit will create after its kind. It will create mumbling, it will create complaint, it will create weakness and helplessness. But appreciative spirit has a capacity to overrule That's why I said a one who do not have rule over his spirit is like a broken, like a city without wall. Another translation say it's like a window, a house without window. So everything can come in and overtake it. Flood can come in over there. It's simply like when you talk about appreciative spirit, it's like a man who has built his house upon the solid rock, which is what I call the anchoring truth, that influences your working truth. Of course, now be able to overrule your emotion rather than your emotion overruling you. So you see, sense of self, sense of security, sense of purpose, sense of intention, and sense of gratitude is a particular tool that you need to wake up, do a reflection around it. Once you're able to put these system in place around your mind, you cannot be debased. And you can't have mental, when people say, you will affect my mental, you're weak. It's helplessness. You've not been able to toughen it. You need a tough skin. You can't go to a house, a man. First of all, you know what? If you want to get into a house, you have to bind a strong mind. It takes strength, and mental resilience to be able to deal with those faculties. But now let's look at it. What does it mean? Where do we go from here if we're going to build a lot of mental strength and capacity to reframe whatever it is? Assuming, for instance, you had been abused before. When you live in that state, assume that you have been taking advantage. Assume your boss always terrify you. Assuming that you don't have that confidence to walk again. There are two things that we're going to do. Begin from today to say, I am my solution. I am my answer. Wake up and say it. And truly is in your power to change the narrative, to change the story, to change the feeling. You have the capacity. So, how do I start doing this? I tell myself, I am the answer and not the question. I wake up anywhere. I've been in a defaming state. I've been in a place where a reproachable state. I've been in that reproach state. I've been in that place where people criticize me heavily. I've been in a place where people who has never met me are talking down. They were not talking down on me, but were talking down on themselves, really, because they have no idea of what they were saying. And people will come and ask, this is what these people are saying. Of course, number one, I'm not going to go into that part because I have a strong mental resilience to be able to deal with this negativity and all the offshoots. People are shooting arrows over there. First of all, I am the answer to my life and not the question. Hey, I don't know where you are the answer. You need to wake up every morning and know you are the answer. It creates that boldness, the audacity, not in pride, but in self-mechanism to build something. Who will give you mental paralysis? How? It can't. Because I am the answer and not the question. Because you see, external things need to question you. They want to question your sense of self. They want to question your sense of security. They want to question your sense of purpose. They want to question your sense of intentions. They want to question your sense of gratitude. That's how we start. I'm the answer. You are the answer, babe. Rise up. Shake up that story and tell yourself you are the answer to the question. You are not the question. I am the answer. Wake up every day and know that you are the answer to the question. And that's what will increase your self-worth. Because you see, if you remain in that state, depression will come in, deformation will come in, devaluation comes in, you begin to diminish in your sense of worth. Now you now start looking for external validation, approval, or external connection, or you go and buy plenty things. Now you're over showing, you're over making up. Because you are fighting. No. When the interior rise, that's why I say, arise and shine, for the glory of God has come upon you. And until you rise, your situation will continue to rise. And the more they rise, they consume you. They're not connecting to your creative mind. And the second one, really, you are the prize, your life prize. I said this, that if stop outsourcing your life prize to an experience, to a history, to an abuse. That's too much. You're giving them too much power. You are your life prize. You are your life prize. I am my life prize. See, I'm the architect and designer of my reality. It's a divine right. You are your own life prize. Rise up. You lost the job. You lost the partner. You lost the connection. You served them and they debased you. They did not debase you because they had the capacity to debase you. They are only reinventing you and redirecting you that you are your life prize. It's either you give it to them or you can take it back. I want you to take it back. I want you to take it back. You cannot be consumed. You cannot live in this state of devaluation. How can your boss has the capacity to say, I bring my presence to the environment? That's the power of intention. That's the power of purpose. The neutralizing force is the power of gratitude. When you've accepted, yes, I was abused, I was taken care of, taken advantage of. That's the acceptance, the power, what we call radical acceptance. Yes, my parents didn't treat me well, I've accepted it. But yet, I am the answer to that equation, to that. I am my life prize. Once you come to this state, these two states, connecting with your sense of self, you see that it begins to amplify. You begin to go high. You begin to be liberated. That's why that where the Spirit of God is, there's what? There's liberty. But you cannot say you have a sense of liberty if you are not your life prize, if you are not the answer to the question life have thrown to you. Because you see, those abuse are question mark. And that's why I say, why me? You see? Why is this thing happening to me? And that's not a question to ask. The question to ask, what can I do with this? How can this better me? How can this enhance me? So when you stop being afraid of mental health or this issue, it's because you have built these constructed within your mind, this tool that you are life prize and that you are the answer to the question. This will change the direction. This will change the purpose. This will change the drum beats. And you know what happened? You become lighter and become more loving. And you embrace yourself more often. Because in that state of life is a fuller life that guarantees mental stability, mental clarity, mental awareness, holistic mind, and a free spirit to curiously, when that state of curiosity, to enjoy life. Thank you so much. I'm available to help individuals on a personal level to deal with the complexity of their mind so that we can find the freedom and the mental resilience and peace, not